Hello, hello, it's Annette Green again, here with some really fun dies from Elizabeth Craft Designs, brand new monster dies, and we're going to make a little mini album. This is a complete tutorial on building this whole book using planner dies and embellishing it with these wonderful new monster dies from Yosette. Take a quick run through very quickly. The size of the album, just so you know, is roughly 4 5/8 by 5 1/8 ish. And what we've got going on in here are some great pop-ups with the monsters. We have file folder pages made from a planner page die. I'll show you everything that I used in the supplies coming up next. Super fun. This album was so much fun to make. We've got magnets in here, we've got pop-ups in here, we've got flaps, we got monsters, all kinds of fun stuff. Let's start right off talking about supplies. I started with Graphic 45's Charmed 12 by 12 patterns and solids paper. Wonderful background papers, bright cheerful colors for Halloween, and not too busy of a pattern. And then there's sort of a solid but a little bit of a textured print on the other side, so that's why they call them patterns and solids. You will need various pieces of cardstock. Namely, you'll need a lot of black cardstock to do the hinge system, to do all the pages, the covers, and I'll show you all that when we get into the tutorial. But I used, various colors of orange and some browns and the gray for the trash can and an off-white for stamping and a little bit of a bright yellow. So just some cardstock, whatever you have. You will need a scoreboard, preferably the big guy if you have it. And of course you'll need a bone folder to do all your scoring. I used a 3/4 inch and a 1/2 inch circle punch. Again, optional. You can just use one or the other or neither, doesn't matter. We'll talk about inks in a second, but the dies are the main star of the show here. So this is a planner die, the number 35 holiday tab pages. It's a Christmas die, sorta. I mean, it's got Christmassy like ornaments on this big piece here, and it says Christmas on this little cute little sign here, but other than that, it's just a great little page die. So I thought it looks like a little file folder with the two different halves. So I thought that's going to be the base to my album. So that is where we will start. And then of course we need the monsters. Yosette's new line of monster dies. Oh, these guys are so cute. Oh my gosh. I'm warning you right now, you're going to get addicted to playing around with these and trying different things. They're so cute. I honestly used all of them. 1, 2, and 3. The trash can or garbage can, number 1979 on that one. I did go back in time and I got the pumpkins die. This is number 1397 pumpkins. And that's just to fill in some places, as you may have noticed as I was flipping through. And then again, this is another new one from Yosette. This is 1978 Party Time, and these are all those fun accessories to decorate the monsters and the pumpkins and the pages and everything. I also used, and this is not new, I'm told, look at the number, 1389 General Pop-Ups. But the packaging is new because of those cute monsters. But these are all those little pop-up elements. And would you believe I never knew we had these before? Yeah, so we're going to use those for sure for the pop-ups. I use the new stamp set. This is called number CS 277 Monster Hugs, and it has all these great little cute phrases. I also used a new Stampers Anonymous stamp just because it worked out perfectly for 3x4 space in those little pop-up things that you saw. This is called Bold Frights CMS 438. All right, and then lastly, I used some magnets to keep those pages closed, those flaps. So these are basic gray, the magnetic discs in the small magnet size. You can find these everywhere. All right, I think we're ready to get rolling. Let's start the tutorial. I almost forgot. I said I was going to talk about inks. I used Rustic Wilderness, Ripe Persimmon, Black Soot, and Wilted Violet. You could use black for everything, but a lot of times when I am inking paper, I don't necessarily use black. I use the same color as the paper. So you see orange around the little horns and you see green around this little monster head. That's just an option. And I also forgot to mention that this is pretty important for this project, especially the hinge system. This is Elizabeth Craft Designs clear double-sided adhesive in the 10 millimeter, or in America 0.4 inch, so about 3/8 inch wide double-sided tape. Okay, so we are going to begin by making a little hinge system that will eventually look like this. And if you've ever made your own mini album from scratch, this is very familiar to you, but we are going to make this ourselves. And what we do to begin, this is the very important step. Okay, I've got my 12 by 12 cardstock here. It's a nice, you know, like maybe 65 pound weight. It's not super duper thick. You can see I'm bending it. But the key here is when you're deciding which direction to cut this, because this is your hinge and there's a lot of folding and scoring and we don't want any cracking. The key here is take your cardstock in your hands and bend it one way and then turn it and bend it the other way. Now this way is resisting a little bit more. This way is very easy. So that's the direction I want. I want my score lines to be in line perpendicular to the easy bendy way. Does that make sense? So when I go to cut this long ways, knowing I'm going to score vertically, I want to make sure it's on this bendy way. Okay, bendy way. Remember that. All right, so we're going to begin, and I know it's a weird measure. It's just under 5 1/8 to match the height of that file folder die. So it's almost it's 5 1/16 wide, and it's actually tall because we're going to go this way. Now we're going to put this in at 7. Okay, so bendy, not so bendy. Okay, and all the scores are going to go this way. I hope that makes sense. Now you got your scoreboard, and I got my notes here so I get it right, and you've got it across the 7 up here, and we are going to score at 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1.5 inch, 1 3/4 inch, 2 1/4, 2 3/4, 3, 3.5, 4, 4 1/4, 4 3/4, 5 1/4, 5 1/2, 6, and 6 1/2. I know that was really fast, but you can always play it back again, and I can put it down in the comments if that would help you, so that you don't have to scrub through and try to find this again. But okay, the first thing we want to do is we are going to start at this left edge and we're folding that up. Okay, and then the next one we're going to make, so I folded this up. In other words, it's a V when we begin, right? There's a V right there. Okay, now we want to make a mountain out of the next 2 scores and pinch it together, right? And then you have this little 1/4 inch space in between. We want 1/4 inch spaces in between every hinge so that it looks like this. Okay, you want that little bit of space between each page hinge. Allows you room for layering and photos and journaling things. So every time you come to a 1/4 inch space, you skip it and leave it flat and jump over to the next 2 1/2 inch pieces and pinch those together. Let me get in a little closer. I've done this in so many videos. I feel like you guys could probably do it in your sleep. So basically, this is kind of what we got going very loosely here. And so you want to put tape on the inside of just one of each of those 1/2 inch mountains on the bottom side. Okay, let's skip the outer 2 for now. Those eventually will get adhesive, but I would put the tape in there, peel, and stick together so this is one flat, tall mountain. Okay, and then you will do that with all of them. Okay, and when you get all that done, it should hold together just like this, and then you can flip it over, and you can put like a whole bunch of strips of tape if you don't have the big sheets, but I did use the large sheets of the double-sided adhesive. I didn't mention that at the top. All right, our next step will be to die cut our front cover and our back cover from those dies that we showed you at the beginning. Now, if you want it to be very sturdy, I used a little thicker cardstock this time, just because I have it. I wouldn't use chipboard necessarily. I think it's going to be too thick. But if you had like 100-pound weight, or if you have some very thin cardboard, like cereal box, packaging from one of the dies or something, we're going to cover both sides, so it's not going to show, it's not going to matter. But I did use black here. Okay, so you will start by die cutting those. This will be your front cover, and then there will be your back cover. So we're going to open those out, and then you want to cut a spine piece that measures 1 1/8 by that same weird, 5 1/16, almost 5 1/8 measure. So that's going to go in between, and then you'll need to cut a 2 1/2 inch by that same height piece of black as well. This can be the thinner one because of what we're going to do with it. We're going to wrap it around, and you're going to find some paper, whatever paper you're using, and cut this that same measure and glue these together. And all this is going to be is a little bit of a reinforced outer paper on the spine, so that if you open and close this album a lot, it's not going to crack, and it's going to be reinforced. It's not going to be just a thin piece of paper holding it together. Now, before we put this all together and join the spine to the front and back covers, first I want to put some papers on top of my covers on the outside. And so I've used the black with the little stars from the Patterns and Solids, and there is no direction to it, so you really can't mess up. But that's going to go on your back cover because that's the outside, and then this is going to go on your front cover before we join these two together. By the way, in case you're wondering, I have switched from my favorite glue stick to a new favorite, and it's been around forever, the Yoo-Hoo stick. It has been around forever. I don't know why I've never used it until now. I've been doing a lot of collaging lately, and I discovered that my Elmer's Extreme was not that extreme when I started to get a lot of layers and water and elements on my projects. It was coming up. So some collage artists that I know and follow was a big fan of the Yoo-Hoo. So I will link that below if I remember. All right, so I have got, and this glue will make it want to curl a little bit, but I'm not concerned because once it's completely dry, that will flatten out nicely. But I do have my front and back cover covered, and we already have our paper here, and then we've got our spine. So we want to join these all together now. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I put double-sided adhesive on the back of my spine, and I'm going to just lean in and try to get this right down the center best I can. Nice and straight, hopefully. Okay, so that's right down the middle. Remember, that's this guy. And burnish that really well, because you're not going to be able to get to it really great later. All right, and then I'm going to take this, and even though it feels wrong because there's paper on here, we are going to put this so that it's coming around the front of this. And that the main reason is to cover up the holes. So here I want to use that same tape. So I'm putting a gap between the spine piece and the actual cover of, just under just a fat 1/16 of an inch, and that is mainly so this can turn and bend easily. So I'm putting on my front cover in the same way. Flip it around this way. Gently. Okay, cute. All right, and now we want to die cut the same 2 pieces with this cute orange with the star paper, so we can line the inside front and inside back covers. And you can cover these up with a strip of the same paper, or you can use a compatible or even contrasty. I think I like the darker orange side, so I think that's what I'm going to do to cover up those holes later. But I'll get these on here now. Next we are going to get our inner hinge system inside the album. So I'm peeling off all of that. I'm going to kind of fold forward those 2 1/2-inch outer tabs just so I can lean down and look and make sure that my first and my last hinge are about in the same place on each side, and then check the top before I commit. So I'm just burnishing this down really, really well, and you would just want to make sure that you kind of condition this paper, this cardstock, to go back and forth easily so your pages will lay nice and flat later and they won't just stick straight up. All right, I'm going to go press this under a book while we do some prep work for our pages. And once you get your little hinge system in there, then you'll put these 2 paper strips over there. They're about a 1/2 inch by that same height that we've been working with. Okay, so for the inner pages, you will need to cut the following using those dies. So we have the green. And by the way, these papers are going to sandwich together on the hinges. So that's why we have 2 pieces for each page. All right, so like I said, green. Then this orange is facing this way with the pumpkins. And then every time you have a spread like this, of course this was the beginning, but when you have a spread like this, the pages will match in the paper, if that's how you want to do it, but that's how I did it. Okay, so that will be your next one with this notch over here. And then on the back of that will be this one. Okay, so the next one will be this one with the single tab. And then you will do the purple with all the words and images. And the same for this one with the notch. On the back of that will be the black with the stars. And of course the black with the stars on the tab page. And then your last one will be the green with the tab over here, which will be facing your inside back cover. Alrighty, now our next step is to get some double-sided adhesive tape, that same 10 millimeter, and we're going to put it only on those right facing hinges. Okay, nothing on the back side, just on the top sides here. Okay, and because it's not quite a 1/2 inch, I want you to make sure that you are putting the tape all the way up to the top of the hinge, not down to the bottom of the hinge. And that's very important. Later when we go to put our papers on, we don't want our papers way down there where it folds as well, because that's where you run into a problem where your pages don't fold flat. Too much bulk down there makes them stick straight up, and that's not what we want at all. So we don't need to put any on the back, because if you think about it, once we get this on here, then we're going to put adhesive on the whole back side of this and then glue it right over the top of that. And yes, we can cover up those holes for sure after we get to the point of embellishing. All right, so I will do this first one, and then I will spare you the painstaking process of watching me glue all these together. And I am going to try to get this on here nice and straight, sometimes hard with double-sided adhesive tape. You gotta commit. But the basic rule that I kind of follow is I try to make sure that the page is squared up as I'm gluing it down. Nothing's crooked, nothing's, you know, wonky. And this is tacky right here, so I have to be a little careful. I can hit that with a talc pad, but I don't really want to do that either because then I won't be able to adhere something over that later. And so now I want to put this here. So that's where I'm going to come in with my good old Yoo-hoo again. And of course, this is great to use because you can slide this into place on this side. But that looks pretty good, and now I'll just go with my bone folder and just kind of burnish that down really well, and then I'll just move through and assemble all the rest of these pages. And as you can see, I got smart and I used a piece of wax paper in between my layers because it was getting a little bit of glue, a little bit gluey. Okay, so I'm going to let that sit and just kind of dry and gel for a moment, and then we'll move on to embellishing. Alrighty, so now we have two different little pop-ups going on inside the album. One of them opens from the bottom to the top, the other one opens like a regular card or a book. Okay, so the measure is going to be a little bit different, of course, for those that pop up, and there are 3 of each style. Okay, for the ones that pop up, you're going to want to cut black cardstock 3 times, 3 1/4 by 8 1/2, so that when it's folded, it's 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. These are inches, of course. I have already put it on here, but I used the 3/4 inch circle punch for a black cardstock circle, and then I used the 1/2 inch one for the orange, even though that one's a little big, but I did. And so that way when we go to put this on, that will have like a nice little tab to pull up on, and we're going to add magnets and whatnot later. So there's the first one that opens bottom to top. And on the inside, even though I've already die cut the little pop-up here, before you do that, you want to cut the paper 3 inches by 8 inches. Double checking that to make sure. And then of course when you fold it in half, it'll be a 3 by 4. Okay? So, did I tell you the measure of this one? Yeah, 3 by 4 on that one as well. That goes on the front, and 3 by 8 on this one, so it's 3 by 4 when folded. Okay, so let's take a peek ahead before we talk about monsters at the other, well, no, let's talk about the monsters. So there's my first monster. He's going to go inside where the pop-up is with this little stamped phrase. So I got that all ready to go. I'll tuck him over there. The second one that opens bottom to top, always black cardstock, but this time I use the black cat paper with the same measure. I got my little circle ready for later. I got my 3 by 4 paper ready for the top, and then here's my monster and the phrase for this one. So cute. Okay, so I'll tuck that away. And just to keep them straight, I'm clipping them together. The last one in that style, bottom to top, is this cutie, who is indeed sweet and scary. So I'm not going to go through like how to build the monsters because everybody's doing that right now on Elizabeth Crafts, and you know, it just takes extra time. Right now we're just building the album. So this time I'm using those same paper measures, and I'm doing the purple with the pumpkins. Okay, so that'll go with that. I've got my little circle there. I've got my little monster. Okay, so those 3 are built that way. And then you have 3 that are going to open like a card. And this is where I use those Stampers Anonymous stamps. You will also need a circle for these. So we have a place to pull open. But this time I use the back side of the papers, and that's upside down, so that doesn't matter, does it? To do the stamping in just black. And I might adorn this later when I get to accessorizing everything. But this is 3 by 4 just like before, and the measure of the black this time, because it opens a different way, is 6 1/2 by 4 1/4. So when it's closed, it's 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, just like before, but this way going vertically. Okay, so we're going to keep all this together, my little circle. The inside papers, I went ahead and picked the same papers that I use on the cover. You can change it up all you want. Okay, so these papers are going to be a little smaller just like before. These are going to be 4 tall by 6 1/4. So, all right, and these will get a little pop-up and they'll go in there. And where'd my little green circle go? I've got to get that on there later. Now, instead of going and doing more monsters, this is where I went to the little pumpkin set that I showed you in the supplies. And I just took some of those accessories from the one die we showed you earlier that has hats and all kinds of things in it, and balloons and streamers. And I put a little crown on my pumpkin. So he's going to go with that one. For the second one, we did the green with the moon and stars. Same on the inside, same measures. This time I did a tall pumpkin. Whoops. Tall pumpkin. And I grabbed some of those funny like wings from one of the other monsters, and then I grabbed this little swirly-do off of the accessories one. I want to call that the right name. It's this one here, Party Time. It's part of this little blow toy, the little what do you call that? Like a party blower. I forget what it's called. Anyway, it just looks kind of silly and cute, so that's going to go there. And then the last one, I did purples. So this has the pumpkins and the solid purple side. I put a spell on you on this side. There must be a little circle somewhere. Oh, there he is. A little circle, my little double circle for that one. And then this time I used the tall pumpkin again, and I added some cute accessories and a mask and all that stuff. So he'll go in a pop-up on the inside of that one. Okay, it's time for our first pop-up. And I've already gone ahead and put the 3x4 paper on the front of the top to bottom pop-up that we're going to do. And of course we know about this measure already. So on this piece of paper, when you fold it in half, you're going to open it back out again, and this is where we're going to use this particular one, this little pop-up mechanism from the general pop-up set. It has 2 pop-ups, one large one and then this tiny little guy in the front. Okay, there's some that are just single, and we're going to use those later, one of those. But basically you take the die, and you see the center bar here on the die? That's going to lay right in your fold. And you try to eyeball center it left and right. Okay, I would use a little bit of removable tape to hold that in place, and then I go through and die cut that out on my machine. And then all you have to do is gently fold, because those are score lines that are built into that die. You're gently going to fold your card shut again. You may have to force this to come forward, but if you just start to fold gently, everything happens on its own, okay? And so when it's folded, it should look like that. And there's that little notch for that second pop-up. Okay? So when you go to put adhesive on this, of course you're not going to want to put any adhesive in that pop-up area at all. You're going to want to put it all around the other areas. But what I like to do is I put it on just the one side, put it down, and then make sure it's all nice and square. And then I bring this down and put adhesive and bring this down over it. Something about doing it that way as opposed to trying to do it when it's all flat like this, it just works. But before we put any adhesive on anything, we want to get our magnets on here because we want this to be a little magnetic closure. And if you use the basic gray magnets, you can see that they have little removable plus and minus backing papers. And so you want to grab one plus and one minus. And this is a little different than how I've done it in the past, just because this is going underneath the paper. So I'm peeling off the plus sticker, and I'm just going to, you know, this is not super critical because we're not going to see it, but I'm just going to stick it not super close to the edge, kind of centered left and right on that top part. Then we take our negative, we close this up, and we just let it suck on there. Now, Did you see that? It flipped around. So let's get that paper off of there first. I think I did this backwards. Pretty sure I did it backwards. Yes, indeedy, because it's not going to want to stick. Yeah, it's going to want to go this way. Okay, totally fine, guys. Totally fine. This will work. This is a little backwards than how you're supposed to do it, but because of it being a pop-up mechanism that's going to get glued down one half and then the other, we had to do it this way. And just so you can see how much adhesive I use, there it be, a whole bunch. Okay, so I'm only going to peel up this. Again, this is the bottom part that has that little notch. It's going to go in first. And just in case you missed it, I did make sure that that bottom part of adhesive tape went over the top of my magnet, because remember, there's no adhesive on the back side of the magnet at this point. We already stuck that down. So now I will peel this all up, and I will bring the top down like I mentioned earlier. We'll go ahead and embellish this first pop-up. So you can see I put a little adhesive on the very front of that small pop-up tab, and that's where I've got my eye on you is going to go. If I gently bring it down and press. Okay. Give that a second to dry so it doesn't slide out of place, but that looks good. And then because that is down there and he has those cute little feet, I'm going to move him way up here when I glue him down to that bigger pop-up right there. So I'll just put a little bit of adhesive toward the top. And I've switched to liquid glue at this point. This is art glitter glue. Okay, let him grab on there. Now, he is the only, oops, he's the only exception where he might stick out just a little bit, his little hands, when I go to close this. Like, you see his little finger? There's a little finger over there. We don't care, do we? Do we care? That's okay. The other two don't do that, but he does. It was just the way I built his arms. So just keep that in mind. You might want to move the arms in a little bit or make them go up or whatever, but there he is. Real cute. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the other two that are in this style, show you those, and then we'll move on to the other one. All right, I went ahead and finished them up. We saw this one already. And the second one turned out like this. Very cute. And the third one, his little tail sticks out just a teeny tiny little bit, but he's pretty cute. Okay, now we need to talk about the other pop-up, which is the one that opens more like a card here. I went ahead and prepared the front. I got my little circles on there, and we just want to do the inside. Now this side, this time, we're going to use this long skinny one, and we're going to go sideways with it. So we used that one before, and you see there's these smaller ones, but we're going to use this larger long one. And I have decided that I want it to be down low because we're just going to put our little pumpkins down here. So we don't need to be right in the middle. I've got my little fold in the paper. I'm coming up about 1/2 inch. I've got some removable tape here, just so you can kind of see this in action. And I even have my little die cutting machine right here on the table. So we'll run that through real quick. Okay, and then we have our little pop-up. And like I said before, it's easy enough to get this to come forward. You just kind of encourage it. And as you can see, when you just start to fold gently, it goes right where it needs to go. Okay, so just press that really well, and then it'll be a pop-up like this. So we'll get that into our card the same way we did before. we got to put our magnets, which I have ready over here. And just like before, we're going to put this right up to the fold with adhesive on the one side. Okay, and then all I have to do is pop on my little crowned pumpkin. And I did go ahead and finish the other two, so I'll show you those in just a second. So cute, so cute. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry and I'll show you my other two. Went ahead and did this one. Now I had to be really careful. I put that little wing out there, so he had to move way over so it would close and he wouldn't hit that edge. And then here's my other guy. Really cute. Okay, I've got my little pop-ups in my album and this is how we're looking. Pretty cute. So I started off the very first page with the one that opens bottom to top, and we are still going to do something here over those holes. This one opens to the side, and then it just alternates from there. Really cute, really fun. Okay, so I'm going to take a little break. We're going to decorate the cover. I've got all these pieces ready, and I'm going to... Okay, so I've got these on here already. I stamped with that same stamp set from Stampers Anonymous. I just used a couple of different inks and let it stay splotchy and added a little drop shadow with a black pen there. So I'm going to do Trick or Treat, but I'm going to wait on Treat. I've got some foam tape on part of that because I want to get my little guy on here with the trash can, the garbage can. And so the garbage can is great. You can ink it up and you have all these little vertical lines, which I went ahead and bent on and then inked. So it kind of has a little bit of a curve. And then I put a double layer of foam adhesive in the middle so that when I go to glue this down, it'll help that stay kind of shaped forward. Okay, so before I do that though, I want to get my little guy, because here's my plan. See, and you don't need his whole body, obviously, because he's coming out of the garbage can. I'm going to put this right about here because I have plans for his little, I'm going to tack that down lightly. His hands are going to come up and hold the top of the trash can. So get him down in there. Oops. And then I kind of want him holding the trash can with one hand here, which I should probably have snuck this underneath him before I glued him down. Maybe I can real quick. Let's see. Yeah. So one hand's going to kind of hold the lid there. So let's get this in here real quick. Okay, cute. And then his other hand, probably not going to get under there with this. Yeah, I can. Okay. His other hand, which I had to cut the same hand twice for it to do this, but his other hand is going to be kind of like coming out and holding onto the side of the can like that. Okay, so the only thing I have left to do is just squeak a little bit of glue under this edge. Oops. Okay. Give that a second. And then we have our little rotten apple and a crunched up water bottle. But I can get Treat on here now. And that's I knew I was going to pop up the garbage can like I did, so that's why I put only adhesive on this half over here. So I can stick that over here. Okay, and then our little apple. I don't know where the water bottle's going to go just yet. I think over there. All right, and that's my cover. Pretty cute. Okay, so we'll take a look. I went ahead and embellished everything just for the sake of time, and so I thought I'd spin through very quickly and just kind of talk about a few things that I did here. And so I put a little banner here, and what this is this great little maybe bunting, maybe they call it. When you have a party, you might hang it up. It looks like this on the packaging, and of course it's from this same set I've been talking about. And so I just created that and then cut it in half to make this little half banner situation. And then some leftovers after I played with it, these little tiny centers from inside of there. You'll see where I'm going to use those. So I held on to everything extra as I went along. So to cover up the holes here, I just cut a 3/8 inch wide strip, and I used my good old Fiskars pinking edge paper scissors from way back when, and I cut both sides and I just covered it up in a strip, but I didn't do that on every page, as you'll see. On my little pop-ups, I added a little pinked edge trim top and bottom to some of them. So that one is done. And then on this one, I had some leftovers of those bunting pieces, so I just went ahead and used them on my double photo mat here. These indented squares are the stitched indented squares, number 1698 die. I just happen to have that, but you could just do a double photo mat, and that would be great. So here again are some strips. This time I did just the pinking edge to the tops and the bottoms to look like ribbon. And over here we have, it's just a bunch of hocus pocus. So I did some of these leftover pieces, like from the eye from the monster and the center of that, and then one of those little tops to the party hat. And I did a little scribbles and swirls with my little micron pen, just for a little added something. And here I did my little borders again with the pinking shears or pinking scissors. Trick or Treat was stamped. I was going in my stamps and I was looking for some more Halloween stamps besides the monster stamps, and I found that I had this one and I haven't used it. And so it is CS 249 Autumn Words, and it has all kinds of great Halloween things, but also some nice fall things. Hello Fall, Autumn Greetings, Leaves Are Falling, Happy Thanksgiving, but lots of cute Halloween things in here. And so that's where a couple of these stamps are from inside. So I have that one. And then over here, just simple double photo mat with the leftover papers and one of those masks with a little secondary mask underneath it, like a drop shadow, just for a little embellishment. And then here, like I talked about doing something different over those holes, I used the inside scraps from that bunting die and just covered up the holes. We saw this already, but then I added again the little pinked top and bottom strips. And then another photo mat with the indented squares, and then I added num 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 over here because this says I'm here for the candy. And so I used the little lollipop die from the set, same set as this, and there's another one of those left over there. All right, and then in here, this time I added some borders top and bottom, and then Hocus Pocus stamp down here. Another mask over here. Double photo mat. Actually, this is a triple because I realized I had black going on black, so I put a orange piece of paper behind there. Two more strips with the little pinked top and bottom edges. And then we have this flap again with the little borders on the top and the bottom. A lot of this stuff I left blank because inside of here you could add more photos, you could put little journaling spots, what have you. Another double photo mat with the indented squares, and then these were just some of those leftovers from the inside of the die. This one is the little skinnier version. There are two different ones in here. So this is the one you've been seeing, and then there's this one that has little skinnier circles. And then this one has, I put a spell on you, so I added a bunch of stars. The stars are just from a punch that I had. And then this is the top of that party hat, again with the fun circles that were left over. And then inside I added the borders top and bottom and stamped Happy Halloween. Okay, and so while I was cutting those little pieces with the pinking shears, I went ahead and added a strip to the back. And you know, I thought, okay, I'm done, but I want to do something to the spine. So if you want to see that, stick around. I am going to use my Crocodile and punch some holes and add some beads and all kinds of good stuff to finish this off. Okay, so if you wanted to do this, I like to use waxed twine. It just has like a stiffness to it. This is an 11-inch long piece. That's more than enough to do the job so that you don't struggle. So this is coated with wax. It's nice and stiff for putting through beads, and that's why I picked that. I've got my Crocodile. I've got 2 black eyelets. We haven't used eyelets in a while, huh? We used to use those all the time. And then, of course, I've got some coordinating beads. And I didn't go out and buy anything. This is just some stuff that I had. So I have some large ones, some small ones, some shiny ones, some plain ones. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here because I know I have 5 of these pages, and I'm going to punch my hole on each side. I'm going to do this from the inside and at the top. So I am going in between the 2nd and the 3rd page, and I'm going to come down. Actually, do you guys know about this? Setting your little stopper so you go down the same amount. So I'm setting that at the 3/8 mark. Let's see if I like that. It might be a little far. Maybe I'll go to 5/16. And that just allows me to go only that far. So there's our little hole. And then I will go between the next 2 and do the same thing. And because I have the stopper set on there, I know that they're going to be perfectly lined up on the outside here. All right. Now, we could just put the twine through there, but I want to do the eyelets like I mentioned. So let's do that. Pop them in the top one at a time. Make sure you have your little settings correct on your Crocodile. And I know you probably can't see this, but give it a squeeze, and that has a nice finished look, right? Oops, make sure you flip the page. Don't just start doing it. Flip the page. Okay, lovely. And because our inner spine, our hinge is black, it just blends right in there. Okay, now the tricky part I did not think about was I was thinking I was going to thread this right through from the one to the other. So we're going to have to get clever. I'm going to come in from the outside, go over the top, and then let's see how that's going to work. I think that'll work all right. Okay, and then, yeah, the page still turns. It doesn't bother anything. So if you saw that, I went over the top of the page to come out through the next hole. Okay, before I put my beads on there, I like to tie a knot. So I've already tied one tie, and now I'm going to tie a second one. And we'll just check our page, make sure it still turns. It doesn't get in the way of anything. You don't even see it right there hopping over the page. So we're good to go. And now I would open out my book and just start making a plan with my beads, and I will be back when I'm all done. I've got them both on there, and I've just decided how long I want this to be. I want one a little bit longer than the other, so I'm going to make my knot in this one just a little bit lower. Okay, and then we can just snip these off, leave a little bit of a tail. Okay. Cute, 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 cute. Well, anyway, thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. I sure had a good time making it, and I'm inky and sticky. But wow, it was super fun. So thanks again. Hope to see you next time, and take care.